Hello, Wanderers. Welcome to Soul Wandering
Hello.
on Wednesday night. Hashtag Wandering Wednesday. Hashtag, what are the other ones they say? I totally drew a blank. Hashtag Wednesday Wanderers. There we go. I am here in my body, okay?
Yes.
Hi, Natalie.
Hi, AJ.
Hello, listeners. I see you guys hanging out already. Darn.
Ready for a great conversation.
Yeah, tonight it's going to be good. But first, check out soulwanderings.com if you're new to the show and you want to learn more about Natalie and myself. We do some really cool things and we get to hang out at this awesome space called Vibes, Mind, Body, Spirit, where we help people navigate their way through this human experience. Not that we are all knowing and all of that. We are not. But we have a lot of tools in the toolbox to share with you. We will help you heal yourself.
And our own experiences to go by.
Oh, that's been the biggest education, right? So yeah, vibesnow.com. And we teach classes, offer services. We have a really cool team here. Just good stuff. So hello, everyone. Welcome. We're hanging out on Facebook and YouTube. If you feel so inclined, join us on one of those chat platforms. It's really fun behind the scenes watching everybody talk with each other about the topics. And then if you have anything to share, please do. We love to hear from you. And if you have any questions, type them all in caps so I can see them easily and get those questions answered for you. So tonight, it's going to be fun. We're going to talk about what's love got to do with it. And before we talk about this, yes, this was scheduled for last week. And I ended up with this really nasty, energetic headache that I just couldn't kick before the show. So my apologies. I had to cancel last minute. Yay for being energy sensitive.
And having the freedom and the ability to say, you're not going to torment yourself.
Yeah.
And you're just going to let the listeners know that we just can't give a good show sometimes.
Well, and just staring at a computer screen for an hour would have killed me.
Yeah, we're not a good idea.
So yeah, thanks for your patience. We're here tonight and we're going to talk all about it.
Yeah. What are we even going to say?
So, like I've said with every show, there's always a song theme and just the name of our show. We've been singing, what is it, Tina Turner?
Yes.
Little Tina Turner. I just can picture her hair in the music video back in the day. Some really, really beautiful boots.
There is something about putting on a good pair of beautiful boots.
Yeah. Back in the day when I just always wore heels, I stopped doing that probably like 5 years ago. I was like, yeah, we're done. Today, I'm sporting some Crocs. Swore I would never wear them, but here we are.
Yeah, you told me that
old.
Walking on clouds. Crocs are walking on clouds.
Oh man, yeah, I don't have the same pain anymore that way. So good. So I'll just go with the trend, I guess. Not really what I wanted to do, but anyway, moving on. What's love got to do with it? We chose this topic because love has everything to do with anything and everything, all the things. So we could go in so many directions when we talk about this topic, and we probably will. So keep up. I know I have a lot of things to say about it from a spiritual point of view, and Natalie in her beautiful, practical ways. It's so good.
And human design.
Mm-hmm.
That is one thing that I definitely want to pull in with that, because it's a different way of loving a person and I'll just go now.
Yeah, do it.
With
Go
that,
for it.
okay. So within the human design, we all have the absolute right to have our own authority and our own differentiation, to be unique. It's beautiful. This is what I heard recently. And I really loved that. I have a right to my uniqueness, to my own internal authority, to know that my boss is with inside of me. And that differentiation is something that is absolutely personalized to me. And then I will therein, when I understand I have that right, give that right to every other person to be there. And I feel like that is an amazing love, to love someone so much that you wouldn't have them be anything but themselves. And that's really powerful. And that is really challenging.
It can be, definitely. We've definitely been schooled in that.
Oh, we definitely have. So for me, that's a framework that I really, of course, I get a lot of practice in working with people in a personalized, individualized way. And I've done this throughout my life. I want to understand the person that I'm interacting with so that I'm, I take the coaching job seriously, that I want to, actually interact with them the way that they need to be working within their framework of life, and not make them live according to my idea or my perspective or what I think is best for them.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this part. And then putting that into the love category is like, how can we love the other person and allow them to be free to be different than we are? Because everyone's different.
Right. Thank goodness.
I know. Can you imagine just robot after robot after robot after robot, rubber stamped people?
We might have to imagine that here in the near future, actually.
No way.
It's happening whether we like it or not.
I know there's that homogenized, like make it standardized and think this way and act this way and fit into a mold. And it's like, no, not for me.
Definitely.
I guess that's an interesting thing to think about in love too. Like, do we love? Well, we are definitely attracted in a genetic, biological way attracted to something that we're not like, that are opposites.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we get into a relationship, we're just like, that disturbs me a lot.
Yeah, relationships are powerful mirrors.
They are.
Well, we were talking before the show, and not in relation to this topic necessarily, but it goes in line with, like, well, it definitely is a self-love thing, but with the mirrors, how you had a client who was saying whatever about themselves that wasn't in the light, it wasn't really positive, and you responded with a question, well, do you feel that way about me? And they were like, no, absolutely not.
Right.
And that whole vibration is all about love.
Yeah.
In my opinion, like the way that you're seeing others, a lot of times we use the filter of how we want to be or what we want to look like or how we want to live our lives of other people.
Yeah.
And we forget, like, all of the things we're seeing in others is what we see and love in ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Or not.
Oh, right. Or the restriction or the criticism and the mistreatment of yourself, where a lot of times there is really so many people that don't love themselves, that really don't have a really good relationship with yourself. And then you work on achieving a good relationship outside of yourself, and yet what you say to yourself on the inside is actually not healthy. negative speaking, mind talk that's awful, that you actually wouldn't, maybe you would say it to someone that you don't really like, but you definitely wouldn't treat your friends, your family members, people that you love and cherish the same way you treat yourself.
Mm-hmm.
There is something about that says if you can't love another quite as well as you could if you love yourself and you give your best self to the world. Give your
I
best self
think
to the world.
I was going to say, I think we've talked about that before in past shows. We've talked about so much. So either in our conversations or in past shows,
Mhm.
the that whole in relation, like the question, what's love got to do with it? It has everything to do with it. Everything, in my opinion, like everything in life, my intention is to lead with love. And everyone, not everyone, I'm generalizing, but a lot of people definitely are like, yeah, you can't really, that's not practical. You can't live your life that way. You can't see people in that light when they're doing bad things, when they're making these choices or they're living their life in this way. But I don't see any other way but to be like that, but to look at them through that lens.
Of love.
Yes.
Right. So here's a unconditional love looks like indifference. So here's the love gets a lot of play. It's a word. It was
Mhm.
one of these 4-letter words, if you want to put it that way. Haha, that's funny. But it's a 4-letter word. So I love ice cream. I love my brother. I love this special person in my life. It was various things like that. But love has all these different ways of interpreting it. But in universal ways, in an unconditional world, um, unconditional love looks like indifference. Like whatever it is that you want to go through and do, I love and support you, and I'm going to stand here, and I'm going to send you this love energy that says I want you to be okay. I want you to find your way. We were having a conversation earlier where I was remembering back to a show when we were on the radio station, and they were talking about the afterlife and how when there were people in this world that this author wrote about, that was the afterlife. And he was talking about these people that were caught in these vortexes, and they were trapped in their own vortex where they were like basically taking themselves through trial and error and difficulties and just caught in this vortex. And there were people in his story said that there were people surrounding these people just there holding space and being present for them while they were just working through their inner torment. And that's the way I see love as well. Is this saying, I will just love you in whatever it is you're going through. But it doesn't
Mhm.
mean that I have to get pulled in to your torment, but I can love and support you in wherever it is you are,
Right.
which is sometimes very difficult.
Very unconditional.
No conditions.
I believe in the experiences that I've had that I've grown a deeper appreciation for that frequency, that vibration of love in those moments when it is more challenging to love someone through their experiences or their actions, and still seeing the good in them, still believing in their possibility to heal, still holding space for them to find their way. Because I feel like when it's harder, we learn, like we go through the school of hard knocks, right? And so I think there's no better way than to hold that space and to show up unconditionally than in those ways. Love is a powerful, uh, would you call it a frequency, a vibration?
Both, I
Yeah,
think.
I think it's all encompassing, especially, oh, I'm like, you're pulling out the map. I'm like, especially in the map. I could put that up on the screen. I'll just have to
Yes,
find out where it's at, but
I'm just looking at this to see. Yeah, so love resides up at, it says it's at 500. So it's on this energetic logarithmic scale of 500, which isn't even the top frequency of enlightenment. So love
Mhm.
becomes before enlightenment, comes before peace, comes before joy.
I always believe that authenticity is probably the most highest frequency or vibration. I don't know where it lands on the map of consciousness per se, but
Yeah,
I believe that, and I always say love is the answer, love is the way, love is this, love is that. And there's like there's this thing that happens when you act like that or say that around people. It makes them very uncomfortable. I don't know if you've noticed that.
yeah.
When you've even mentioned something along the lines of, well, that's what love looks like,
Hmm.
even though it doesn't, we're not conditioned to believe that's what it looks like with that particular experience, insert whatever experience, right?
Right, right.
And so when you're like, well, love will guide us, love will be the way, love this or that, people are like, oh, that sounds so woo woo or corny or whatever adjective. They just have a deterrence. They're just like, ugh.
Right. Sort of push back on that.
Yeah.
And I feel like reaching towards a space where it's no conditions. We live in a world that actually conditions us and pushes at us to have these established guidelines, and a lot of our modern psychology does this too, to say,
Mhm.
you need to set up boundaries, you need to have these acceptable behaviors, not acceptable behaviors, these aspects, to say that, look, this was show this, you do these things, you behave a particular way, that demonstrates that you love me. And there's just a myriad of languages that we can put out there, but that really does establish conditions. And then it puts us this framework, this mental and emotional framework, that we say love has to look a particular way,
Mhm.
when the universe doesn't have that. So consciousness doesn't have those restrictions. And then there's also aspects about, I wore my shirt that says, start the day with a forgiving heart. So I want to bring in forgiveness, of course, to a topic that says, this is, what does love have to do with this? Where someone does something that doesn't feel good, and we have experiences that don't feel good, and then we continue to carry that not feel good experience in our backpack for days and weeks and months and years, and hold it in between you and the person, because there was an experience that didn't feel really good. And so you're like, okay, relationships can stop or end or pause, um, or family relationships, so you won't interact with that. And then you come away from love and down lower into regret or blame or shame, which are, according to the map of consciousness, much lower vibrations. They don't feel good. And then we cling to that. We say, well, I can't forgive that person.
Mhm.
I can't love them because they did this thing. And then there can be a smaller number. And I'm not saying that bad behavior is acceptable. Don't take it that way. What I'm talking about is the way that we carry ourselves forward through life. And the predominant way that we carry ourselves actually dictates what our frequency is in life. So there's this predominant thing. If you are predominantly in hate or scorn or guilt and shame, then you just don't experience as much love.
Mhm.
And what we put out there, we get back. And what you want to receive, you have to be willing to give. So this
Absolutely.
forgiveness thing that says, like, okay, it happened. Can't change it.
Well, and I look at forgiveness as love.
Yeah, I know, because you've experienced some things that could definitely be something that you could hold on to forever.
Yeah. In my personal experiences when it comes to love, the only way that I was able to forgive was to love the experience or the person who created the experience. And where a lot of my life, adult childhood and adult life was based in trauma, or so, there was an element of trauma going on. I knew that I didn't want to carry around someone else's ick. And so I just had to love them regardless. I just had to love them regardless and be thankful for the experience in which it gave me and enabled me to grow as a person. I saw people who would suffer in those lower frequencies of having those emotions, the bitterness, the anger, the heavier the heavier things. And I had moments of that time myself, but I don't want to feel that way. And the only way for me not to feel that way is not to expect their behavior to change, or for them to say they're sorry, or for them to, you know, get punished, or whatever that looks like. I realized that I had to love myself enough to let those things go. And the only way to let those things go was to love them. It felt like a dissolving, right? Like, you have this frequency and this frequency, if you can meet in the middle somewhere, then it just neutralizes it. It's the best way that I have been able to navigate my way through healing, because there are some things that happen to us that are just not fair. And this is what I wanted to talk about when I said I'm coming in from a more spiritual and energetic point of view. And I love the human design, all of the things that you share and the aspects thereof. I don't know what I would do without human design now that I have it in my life. It literally has changed everything. And I believe it's one of the highest frequencies of love that you can give yourself. But on a healing journey, when we are working on ourselves, there's so many aspects and so many layers to the healing process. And I feel like the question, what's love got to do with it? And I say it has to do with everything about it and every aspect of your life. I feel like one, if not the only way, just from my experience, is just to love harder. Part of part of my belief before we come here is that we all these people who do us harm or cause whatever negative reaction inside of us or in our environment is very intentional. Like, we planned this all from the beginning. And there can be no other stronger version of love without somebody showing up to be the bad guy so that you could have this experience, so that you can be a different version of yourself, the version that you're meant to be, the version that you plan to be for your purpose in your life. And I just when I learned that and understood that, there's just been no other way since. If I can forgive someone who's done absolutely horrible, horrible things, unimaginable things to me, then all of these other little situations, they may be bigger to some other people, but they're so much easier for me to let go of.
Mhm.
Because if I can forgive from a place of love with these experiences, everything else becomes lighter. There's no reason for me to be in a space of anger or bitterness or frustration or any other emotion, because it's not going to help either one of us. It's not going to help either one of us heal.
So well put.
Thanks, Natalie. Words are hard for me sometimes. When I'm connecting the way that I connect, I'm just like, what's that word?
It reminds me. The person I used to work with, she said, you take this spiritual energy stuff, that's energy, and mostly if we could just telepathically just show the concept the way the energy shows it, then words used like bring it down into words, which are much more limited form, and try to like shove that big thing into a little box with letters, and then have it come out of our mouth and to say, and that's not even close to what it's really like, but that's the best attempt.
Yeah. I'll share I believe I've shared this before, and I recently was just on a podcast. I don't think it's been released yet, but we were talking about my near-death experience and some of the things that came through on that experience. And I'll just share really quickly the way that I knew this was true for me, that love was one of the highest experiences that I could have as a human, was during my NDE. What had happened to get me in this place was very traumatic, and I was being hurt by somebody else, and it caused this experience for me where I was no longer here. And one of the messages that I got before I came back into my body was, um, love him anyway, for he does not know what he does. Because and there's a series of events, and I'm trying to like give you pieces of it without giving the whole backstory because it's a lot. But I remember that statement very much, like, you'll get through this, and this will be the last traumatic experience you ever have, and to love him anyway, because he is not in his right mind. He's not in his, he's basically the end of the story was like when I came back to and I was still in this experience, and knowing what I know now, he was definitely had a walk in or was possessed, something along those lines, because just you saw there was like no soul. But when I was where I was at, you saw like the soul and the potential that that person wasn't even aware of. And with my understanding, very limited understanding at that time, it didn't make any sense to me. But the conversation that I had on the other side is not anything I'll ever forget. So it's not like I can't remember what was said exactly. It's not like that. It was so much more than that, that just stayed with me forever. And so I've been putting these pieces together, and the whole experience was because of love. The whole experience was because of love. Not just the actual NDE, but even the traumatic parts of it. It was all because of love. And so having that information and being given that information, and even not understanding it then, but I understand it now, and I'm sure I'll understand it even more as I heal, that that will always be my answer. That if, yeah, it's just words.
Yeah.
It's ineffable. Like just the amount of frequency that holds, knowing that we are all just pieces of this puzzle, and we are all helping each other in some way, shape, or form. And it's all coming from that vibration. Even the bad stuff. Even the bad stuff. Yeah.
It's definitely going to be a mind bender for some to say how does bad things equate to love. So I do find that on the practical living it out sort of experience, you definitely received input from a different realm when you had your NDE that said they just put it into you. It was just inserted into you. You're muted. Yeah.
It was just a knowing like this, but logically it didn't make any sense.
No, because it's not a logical thing. It's beyond reason. Love is literally frequent as far as frequency goes. It's beyond that. I mean, it's an upper frequency, which means you have to move past reason or logic into a just a step that's different than that.
Mhm.
to grasp it. So you have to drop that types of things, and which is the conditional part that said, but this and this and this and this, and it's like, but it's all encompassing. So one of
Right.
the things, and we've talked about this before, and we're going to talk about it a lot, because when you shift into gratitude, I love this little book that I had at one point, and I think I gave it away, but maybe it's tucked away in my book somewhere, that said, "Thank my wicked parents." And it was gratitude statements for the difficult and awful situations in life. And when
Yeah.
you learn to appreciate that everything in life is happening for you, we live in a world of contrast. It's this and that. It's this and that. So there's the contrast. If everything was against a white background, we wouldn't see this. There would be no well, really, there is no separation, but that's
Yeah.
maybe a different
That's a different topic.
the illusion of separateness, which could be a topic in the future. But the contrast gives us, and the experiential thing is for expansion. We
Mhm.
must have these growth periods, and so pulling it back to a practical things, that without resistance, there is no strength building.
Mhm.
In a euphoric state, nothing happens, and it's just nirvana. Okay, everything's perfect. Everything's perfect. Oh, yep, everything's perfect. How's it today? It's perfect weather, perfect time, perfect place, perfect food.
Yeah, I get called unrealistic or all kinds of things when I'm like, "Oh, it's beautiful. That's what love looks like." And people are like, "Is she on something?" Because it doesn't look like that as a human. Things do
No.
not look like that. If we look at what's going on in the world today, there definitely is a spiritual war taking place.
Hmm.
And we obviously have the light and the dark. And a lot of people are giving in to the darkness. There's a lot of reasons why. It can be glamorous or alluring, it can draw you in. It feels like freedom, it feels like opportunity, it feels like a lot of these things that feel positive without realizing they're literally just a worm on a hook, reeling you in
Hmm.
to like this darkness. If you
Hmm.
think of the water and the layers of darkness is just reeling you in more and more. And people forget that when you get into that space, how hard it is to get out of it. Where you choose to lean into love, it is challenging. There are times where you choose love and it is more work. But if you compare the two, it's a lot more work to stay in the dark than it is in the light. But a lot of people opt out of being in the light for whatever reason. You know,
Right.
there's a plethora of reasons that happens. And some are out of our control. Like sometimes medication will do that, or foods will do that, or people will do that without us knowing that we're being pulled in that direction. But
Right.
if you're consistently and actively working in a vibration of neutrality and above, there's no way that you're going to get caught and reeled in by this darkness.
Right.
But the world right now is very contagious to what the dark is doing. There's a lot of propaganda and mind control and manipulation. And so it's not entirely their fault. It's easy to follow the flock when it looks like the masses are more on that side. And that's what you feel like you're supposed to be doing or what it's supposed to look like.
Right.
And not a lot of people have that experience of the unconditionality that the vibration of love offers.
Right.
And so they don't know any other way. But it's so much easier than you would think. It's just that if you don't know, you don't know. And I like to encourage and even challenge people if they can even just for a day, kind of like be a yes man. You know what I mean? Not like going past your boundaries, of course, but where you may have someone in your life that brings irritation to you, maybe maybe coming to them instead of frustration and being irritated, but just even just smiling and nodding, just an awareness that they have something going on inside of them, and it has nothing to do with you, and to not give your power away. Just smile and nod, and don't take ownership of the negativity. It's a really great neutral place to begin. And then as you continue to work through experiences, you're able to get stronger and stronger, maybe even use your voice in a loving way and set boundaries in a loving way and do things that are on the higher end of the consciousness map than just giving in to what feels easy at the time, which would be more of the dark side of things.
Punitive retribution. That old saying that said revenge is a plate best served cold.
Mm.
These types of things of understanding, like that's the seductive power of, like, they deserve this vindication and retribution.
Right. And if you are working in the vibration of love, you know that has nothing to do with you, and you're not the one that's supposed to serve them the justice or the consequence. Like, that is not up to us.
No. This I many years ago, I remember having this thing, like, I'm gonna let the universe deal with the karmic thing, because for one, I've noticed throughout the years, I noticed that most major philosophies, religions, a lot of consciousness teachings all have a non-judgment clause. They say, don't judge, don't just don't judge. And I have this awareness that said, oh, I'm seriously not qualified. Not only do I not have it in my design, which makes it a little bit easier, but I'm just not qualified. I cannot possibly, with this limited perspective that I have just in my one body, gather in enough information to judge something, person, place, thing appropriately. I don't have all the information. We don't have what's inside the other person either. So thoughts, feeling, and motivations, couldn't accurately figure out either. So as I learn to be in that non-judgment space, I find it easier to slip into an acceptance space that said, well, things are unfolding as they ought to. And if I wait, I can see over time why. Why is this for me? What is this situation going to offer me and teach me? What am I going to learn and grow? Well, in the middle of any given experience is not the time that you can fully assess what it is that's going to come from the experience. You're not even done.
Right.
And there's these aspects to say you got to go all the way through it. And then, and another thing to consider is to say, what would it be like to let go of the heavy? What would it be like if you just let go of the heavy and you offered it up to the dumpster or the universe or the God or whatever framework feels good to you? You just write down the heavy, this person did blah, 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 blah. And then you just let it go, like released it in some way.
Mm-hmm.
It's really healthy things to do. And often you find that if you're willing to let it go, then you don't remember it as much. It doesn't even bubble up in your memory banks as much. It actually can just be permanently filed away. Or there may be a memory without any emotional triggers, energy at all involved in it. It's just a thing that happened.
Right. The other thing to add on to that is we don't always know what other people are going through. And just think of the times where we have been lower in energy. We've made choices that probably weren't the best, right? Because we thought at the time it would be easier or whatever. I'm losing my train of thought because my brain is going faster. Hold on one second. Basically, there's so many of us who aren't living authentically and not being what we're meant to be being because we are being controlled and manipulated or conditioned or whatever way that's going on with this energy, right? Where they're the powers that be are trying to take over. And so when we come at those experiences and add to that energy, the other person also isn't going to feel like they can be authentic. They're going to continue not being authentic because they don't feel safe to be authentic. If someone in their life or in their circle or on their team aren't showing up in the vibration of love. And so we can assume that someone is going through A, B, and C, but the truth of the matter is we don't know. People
No.
don't always show themselves authentically.
Right.
And so the other aspect to that is we don't need to take on their stuff. Like whatever they're going through, if you have a judgment towards it, if it pops up into your head, the best thing to do is to let it go right away. If it doesn't hurt you, if it doesn't involve you, if it doesn't concern you, not only should we not be judging each other, that goes against the love energy, but also letting them have the experience is loving them. Let them have that experience because there's something that they're getting from that and something that they'll learn from that, same way that you did to get you on the other side, to be on the side of love.
Mm-hmm. Let them.
Yeah.
And
But not let them in the Mel Robbins way. Or is
or
that her name?
yeah,
Oh boy.
that's one of the one of the peoples that say that. Well, if I just open up this, let them, and I were explain it in our soul wanderings way. It's basically a person's behaving the way that they're behaving. It is very, very difficult in all the years that I have been doing people business, which is most of my adult life, because I just have a knack for
Yes, you
people.
do.
One of the most difficult things that any workplace or family or that type of thing has is policing behavior,
Mhm.
because people just many times they have a lot of unconscious mannerisms or behaviors that they're not even necessarily self-aware. There's a lot of people in the world that don't have self-awareness. Who is like, don't they know what they're doing? That's the message you got when you were on the other side. Forgive him because he doesn't know what he's doing. He's
Mhm.
caught up somewhere, and it's like, well, people think they have to know what they're doing. They're like doing it, and it's no. There's a significant lack of self-awareness
Mhm.
that people have. It takes a lot of work to become more self-aware, to raise your awareness of yourself and watch yourself. And a lot of times, people don't even know how to observe themselves or
Mhm.
listen to their own voice as they're talking. A lot of people are very automatic with those. So, when you understand that, nope, they don't know. They
Mhm.
they don't have that level of self-awareness, and that doesn't mean they can just change their behavior. So policing another person's behavior, I will ask this question of the audience to say, so you think that it's so easy for someone else to change their behavior? You do it first. You do it. You do it. Can you do that? Well, maybe, but I don't want to. It's difficult to change our behavior.
Mhm.
And so often that's a root of something to say they were misbehaving. I want them to change. And it's
Mhm.
like, be the change. These are the challenging um, affirmations or mantras that are out there in the collective that say there's some great person that demonstrated something, said, be the change you want to see in the world.
Mhm.
You just try a week to be the change you want to see in the world. Your world will change if you diligently work at it. The
Mhm.
world will shift for you.
Right. And we talked a little bit about that in the law of attraction.
Mhm.
Yeah. Let's do that challenge this week. I want to hear from you guys. At least try for a day and see how it feels to just let it go. Just let it go. Just let it go and love the experience, love the person, love the outcome, whatever you're having through the day. Just Oh, I love that for me. I love that for you.
I I I enjoy
I said
doing.
that I just said that out loud, and I
Guess
mean
what we're
it.
gonna have to do.
I mean it. Well, I have been doing that. That's
Good.
something that's been happening for me lately is I've have some challenging personalities in my life right now, but not because they're challenging necessarily. Uh, when people aren't self-aware or they're going through their emotions, they just get so caught up in the lack instead of what they have available to them.
Mhm.
They forget the abundance that they're surrounded by, and they can only focus on what they don't have. And it's really easy to switch that mindset with just the thoughts in your head. You don't have to do anything else. You don't have to plan anything. You don't have to talk to anyone. You literally just get to change the thoughts, which changes the energy in your body. It changes the emotions in your body. It changes the frequency in your body. Just do I need this? No, I can let that go. Do I need to worry about this? No, I can let that go. Why do we do that to ourselves?
Well, it's very much conditioning.
Yeah,
There is so much conditioning that gets woven into us. We get woven as on our at the cellular level. We get
mhm,
built from when we're a fetus and we're in the womb and our mothers are going through something. Whatever they're going through gets sort of woven with our cellular structure, and then we get birthed, and then we're little and we're getting because we're very, very programmable as humans, which is part of the way that this Maya works
mhm,
is that we're open to programming. The vast majority of people open to that programming. And so we get fed these things when we're little and we don't even have a fully developed frontal lobe where we even have a world view. And so our parents and schools and teachers and all of that stuff just gets absorbed by us. And so we're not even conscious of why we have our thoughts and our belief structures. We can't even get to everything consciously anyway.
mhm,
So when we think, um, this is another thing this of saying, I would love you, and getting back into some of this stuff, I would love you if you would be this way. And then there's the I would love myself if only I could do this thing or the other thing. Then this love is just set, just sort of out of reach, way out there is conditional. It's like, and some of it's because it's like, and we're going to level up. We're going to be given everything in the life that's preparing us for the next level. This is one thing I have definitely learned in my life, and I definitely feel like I'm going through currently. Is like, oh, I'm be given a lot of things that are preparing me for the next step that I'm
yeah,
taking. And
mhm,
I like to do that. I like to have a progressive life, and will put myself in situations that will help me level up professionally, personally, and so that I'm given everything through my life to prepare me for what I will need to do to hold that next level of responsibility, of energy level, whatever that looks like. So if
mhm,
there's things that are challenging in your life, they're there to help you level up, push forward. Are you willing to let go? Sometimes we're being squeezed by life, so we'll let go of the dense things
mhm.
so we can be lighter in our
Yes.
life. And lighter also means have the light that's inside of each one of us shine more brightly because it's not covered up with the crapola.
Yeah, yeah. I'll get called unrealistic for as long as I live because I will continue to come from this space because it feels good, and every time that I'm able to operate from love, I heal even more parts of myself.
So if we flip that around and say, how realistic is it to blame someone for 5 years for a situation that took like 30 minutes? Is that realistic? How realistic is that?
No, go ahead.
It's an interesting thing to take that script that said, oh, love is unrealistic, and then just to apply it to a different aspect, to say, how realistic is it to hold an event that happened over someone, or
Mhm.
to be bitter about something for a real long time. So we take that measurement and say, well, how does that apply to your situation where you're coming at me with this aspect that we're talking about? Is that
Right.
realistic, what you're doing?
Yeah. Well, and I also think there's like that pushback I was talking about when it comes just to the word,
Mm-hmm.
because people look at love as like an emotion. They look at it as a feeling or an action, but they're not looking at it as a vibration or
Or
a frequency or what's that?
state of being. I was going to
Right.
call it a state of being
Right.
in love.
And so there is that pushback just because of the word alone. And that you have a lot of people who don't feel like they're worthy. They're not worthy to receive. They
Right.
definitely cannot give.
Right.
So I feel like if we blast everybody with this frequency, it would be amazing, right? Especially right now with this thing going on in the world right now. If
Yeah.
we were coming from a different vibration, how much different the world would be. But
Correct.
people are opposite of love. They're in their egos, not their healthy egos, they're unhealthy egos. They're in these places of wanting to be right or have their voice heard or have their opinion shared, and they're not understanding that that's not what love looks like. It just
Yeah.
as an observation.
That's a good observation.
It's an exhausting observation. It just gives me an opportunity to love even harder.
Yes, it does.
There is a client of yours that I met recently, and um, she had shared that. Oh, I don't want to get into the details. I definitely don't want to call her out. But you look at love in relationships and how people are. One person looks at love one way, maybe as a feeling, and another person looks at it as maybe an action.
Mhm.
So they're not in alignment with what love looks like or feels like for them. And that happens a lot. A lot of
It
my
does.
clients are going through that on my end from my experiences that I've had with them. So when someone is not emotional, for example, with the human design, they don't have all that ooey gooey feeling of what love looks like or feels like. Um, how would you explain love to someone who doesn't understand that? I'm not talking about romantic love, but more of the non-emotional, unconditional aspect of love.
So from my experience, there is a lot of play in our modern society about love looking a particular way and being very emotional state. And so it drives a lot of that emotionality about it. And studying the human design, there's the one center that's the solar plexus that emits emotional energy. And then someone naturally emits emotional energy, or they don't have that as part of their nature. So they emit energy from other centers, and they will utilize these other centers that have other functionalities. So let's say someone that's a generator, a manifesting generator, is non-emotional, they're sacral, they will give their literal life force to doing, to demonstrate love. And then there's other people that don't have that, that will come from their presence and their body being in a particular place. So the choices that they make, they will support people maybe with their intuition or with their sense of self, and they're literally showing up and having their body be present. And that's a demonstration of being present, which can be the interaction with another and saying, you matter because I actually having here in my body space, and you matter because I'm here with you and I'm doing what it is the best of my ability to interact with you and do what you would like to be done. So there's those parts of showing up. Now that a lot of people can be familiar with the 5 love languages, which helps frame the way a person feels loved, and then they will often do those different things to represent demonstrating love to another. And taking a model like that, you'll pull apart how many people understand and will actively engage in a love action in different ways. So that's one of the ways that I would say. I don't know if this is exactly in line with that, but I wanted to just touch back into saying being in the state of love is a place. If you think about love as a state of being, then it would be okay and healthy in that sort of state of being to love a person in spite of them not showing up the way that you would choose them to show up for you. And then you can start to have an awareness that said, oh, if I want someone, let's just say I want my mother, because this is a thing, not one thing, it's your mother. I want my mother to be loving and supporting, and I want that mother-daughter relationship that's like that. And that's actually not like what my mom would be like. So then it's like, oh, then I'm working on loving a woman that just is not my particular mother. And it's a really good awareness to say, oh, I actually I'm loving an idea of a person. We can be in love with an idea. And there is a benefit for having an awareness that you're in love with an idea. And then the reality is that we're here to love an actual person. It's inside of a body, doing the human thing. That isn't an idea or an ideal. There's a lot of these things that are an ideal that we try to impose upon ourselves or others. And it's not the way that it works. So learning how to observe yourself can help you also learn how to observe another. And we often have to have another voice, another mind to help us move beyond our own mental framework, to introduce something else to our mental framework, because we can't solve a problem with the mind that created the problem. So there's these types of things. It's like, are you willing and able to love another person in spite of their behavior? And I guess I'm blessed I know I'm blessed in a lot of ways, but one of the things that was in our house growing up was, now you do love your sister. You do not like, because we hate was a bad word. So we couldn't say we hated our siblings. So that was not an okay thing to say. And my mom would say, you don't hate your sister or your brother. You don't like their behavior, but you love them. So it was fostered. And I guess that gave me a benefit, because I was raised in a household where that was a conditioning agent of us. So we were conditioned to see it in that way. We didn't always agree with it, but we had that. That's what mom's rule. Mom's rule.
Yeah.
Don't say you hate him.
Yeah. And I mean, just saying the word hate alone is just, ugh.
I don't, it doesn't feel good in my mouth.
Yeah. It's caca.
It is caca.
My grandbaby goes, caca. Yep, it's that. It's been so fun. I really like talking about this topic, because it's it's a way that I've committed to living. It's a way that I was shared about in my NDE, and although I didn't understand it then, as things have been laid out in front of me as they said they would, I have definitely had my share of blessings when it comes to being loved unconditionally, and for people to love me where I'm at, regardless of how I showed up when I was messy, because it gave me an opportunity to learn to love myself and forgive those that I'm meant to forgive in this lifetime. And so with me, not just me loving other people that way, I'm really grateful for the people who have loved me that way. It's been
Well,
good.
I do believe that part of that is the radiation from, radiates out from you, what you experienced and you brought back from that other side. It's just inside of you, and it radiates out of you.
Mm,
At least
thank
that's my
you.
experience with you.
I'm so grateful for that. Thank you. That feels good.
It is good.
And if anyone knows Natalie, even if just from the show, you know that she radiates this energy and it's just beautiful. And I love it.
Love everybody.
So if you guys are hanging out on YouTube or Facebook, if you have not yet subscribed to either platform, please do. We're just getting started here on these platforms on our own. And also, if you feel inclined, share with a friend. If you have a show topic that you would like us to talk about, you can send in your request to us at connect@soulwanderings.com, or anything else, not just a show. Like if you want to talk to us, get a hold of us. We love hearing from our listeners. And just for some information, next week we will be talking about the Akashic Records. And then for the month of July, I shouldn't say all until, but the month of July until July 30th. We're just going to take 4 weeks off of the show because July is really crazy for a lot of people with holidays. I'll be traveling for 2 weeks, and Natalie has some things going on. So next week we'll have our show, and then we will have 4 weeks of the show that we will not be available. There will not be replays. We're not on the station anymore, so there just won't be any content being put out for 4 weeks. And then we'll return on July 30th. So next week, and then July 30th, we'll be back at it again. I'm
Yes.
excited for next week to talk about the Akashic Records. It's my jam.
I'm going to be a student again. I love it.
It's good. Thanks everyone for being here with us tonight. We really appreciate you and your support. It's just so amazing having you guys all here. Your activity in the chat room. Make sure you like our videos and our content, and we will see you guys all next week. Same time, same place. Good night, everyone.
Have a good one.